Recording in progress.
So the talk and exploration we will be doing later is going to be on receiving feedback or admonishment or correction, and the way that we can set ourselves up to be receptive for positive feedback correction is to first be present with the feedback we have in our own bodies and to set our attitude in such a way that we're showing up with a kindness that helps us to be receptive. One of the things that, one of the primary things that gets in the way, well, the biggest is ego, but is anger. So as we practice that peacefulness, that joy of the carol we just did, it helps us when we come into interacting with each other. So let's go into meditation together, and you may, just turn the volume down and sit quietly if that's the best way for you to center your mind. Or you may go along with this guided meditation with whatever meditation object, whatever the object, your breath, your full body, you can use that, or you can use this open body awareness that I will be suggesting. So let's take a comfortable-ish, whatever the body will support right now, posture. Might mean taking a deep breath, straightening the spine. Gently letting whatever holding in the body is there that's not needed for this moment. Just inviting it to soften. So this is a practice of willingness to be with what is. A practice of settling into meditation, into a quiet posture. Bringing up a gentle curiosity with things as they are. You might start with the breath as your object as it moves through the body. Softly attentive to its movement and to the places in the body that move in response to its movement. And when you feel present with that body awareness around the breath, know that the energies of that breath are going throughout the whole body. And if you wish, open your awareness to the body as a whole. gently curious. Softly attentive. And in this way, this gentle, kind being with, when a body part gives you feedback, you can hold it with a curiosity that's gentle. Maybe the knee is expressing some pain or tightness. Or maybe there's a real softening in the belly. Just touching in and receiving the sensations of the body as they are. Sometimes this takes a real patience. So see if you can just be with, allowing, receiving, gently holding the sensations as they are. We'll have a little time of silence to practice that. Gently curious, softly attentive, coming back to the sensations of the body, with them just as they are. That same gentle attention we give the body can also be directed at an arising mental heart tone or even a thought. Gently curious. Is this a tone or thought based in anger, based in fear, based in wanting, based in delusion? And if it is, knowing it for what it is. And then redirecting back to the sensations within the body itself as they are. Without the overlay, just the sensation. Present with, patient with. Respectful of this conditioned being, this conditioned body, as it is. So continue aware of the heart or mind tone when it becomes the forefront object. And then returning to the body, the sensations, gently curious. Just aware it's like this now. Patiently aware. And as we enter the last 5 minutes or so of meditation, check into the quality of your attention. Even though you may not have been practicing directly with the Brahma Viharas, notice, is there a quality of kind friendship in your attention, or compassion, resonant joy, or a balanced equipoise? Are these qualities present as it is, the heart as it is? And if they are, maybe take these last few minutes to really rest in that. Let them be center, the quality of showing up with kindness to things as they are, showing up with compassion, with a resonating joy, and with balance, equanimity. Your favorite metta practice. Looking into your own heart and loving the being that you're conditioned to be right now. Knowing that you're in a world with other beings, other people, the planet itself. Bringing up the qualities of kind connection. So these last few minutes, in whatever way seems right, focusing on your attention and cultivating a kindness there. this conditioning ourselves to be able to show up to things is really important. There's so much of our Buddhist practice is this cultivation. And then the other so much is the actual interactions, both important. Sangamita, can you remind me? I've been practicing with this topic now, specifically for a long time, but specifically pulling it together in the last month. And the title has changed over that month. Can you remind me what it is that this one is?
Um, Let me see. I don't know. Uh, I sent out a MailChimp. That'll take a while. How about your chant? Was it not in the title of your chant?
Uh, no, I suppose it's not I mean,
Yeah.
I can just, I
I,
can just
I remember it
uh,
was about,
wing it from here and
yeah, it was a how to use admonishment to help further us on the path.
there we go. That's close enough. So how can we use and even embrace admonishment so that it can help us with our course correction when that's needed on the path? And before I start, I'll just say this is a work in process for me. It's been a work in process probably throughout this life, definitely most present once coming to monastic life. And so it's an evolving exploration. So that's what I'm bringing today. Some of the Buddha's suttas, some anecdotes, and then I know there is a wealth of wisdom on this call from practitioners who have been doing this for a while, and human beings who have stumbled, and human beings who have found those moments of grace. So I'll talk for the first bit. I kind of have three parts to this. I'll kind of talk through the first one and let you know what the second and third one are. And then hopefully we'll have time to open it up and really explore it together. So with that, I would like to start with the veneration of the Buddha, because that's where these teachings are coming from. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sangham namasami. So with that respect for our root teacher, the Shakyamuni Buddha, let's look at what it means to get correction. A lot of talks when you go on to Dhamma Seed or just elsewhere are about how to give correction or how to give feedback, right speech, particularly in relationship. And I really want us to focus today on the receiving side. What do we do so that we can wisely receive admonishment? And specifically within the realm of our Kalyanamita, our spiritual companions, those who are also walking the path, heading for the direction of Nibbana. And we can open it up to other circumstances, but the real focus is going to be on receiving from those who are walking with us. So what I noticed throughout the teachings of the Buddha, I collected into kind of a step-by-step process. The Buddha likes, sets and numbers. I'm finding them helpful for my own practice with this one too. So this is three to receive correction. And the second is the actual receiving of a correction. And then the third is responding to that correction. So we'll go into those. I'll spend most of the time from the suttas on the first one, and we'll do more discussion in the second two. And I understand that this three-part process is probably not what's happening most of the time out in the world. Most of the time you have a two-part process, and it probably goes something like this. One, you get unsolicited criticism, and two, you react. So we're going to try and slow that down and see if we can already have primed ourselves for receiving correction. We can be present in the process of receiving it, and then we can respond with the skillfulness from the teachings. So for that first one, setting up to receive the correction, I also have three parts there. One is trusting that it's useful. Otherwise, why bother? Why put ourselves, because it's difficult in the body and the mind to receive correction a lot of the time. Sometimes we're just ripe and ready and open, but a lot of time there's some resistance in us. And so we need some trust that this is a worthwhile, useful thing to do. And then the second is that we're aligning our attention to well receive it. And we kind of started that with the meditation process we were doing. So how do we align our attention so that we can receive it well? And then the third is the actual inviting of the feedback or correction from our good companions. We're going to focus on the good companions. So what is the usefulness? Let's first, before we go to the sutta, start with an example we've probably all done. We've got a GPS or an app on our phone or a Garmin or something in the car. We're driving along and we don't quite follow the directions. We miss a turn, and the machine says back to us, take a U-turn. Or it directs us around a block and then up again in order to get us back on course. So it's a real-world example where that bit of feedback, that correction, will help us to be aligned with our destination. Of course, the destination we're hoping for in spiritual life is not just the grocery store or the friend's house, but Nibbana. So what does the Buddha say about that? In Angutru Nikaya 734, he says, one with good friends, easy to admonish, reverential and respectful. Such a one cannot fall away, but is close to Nibbana. Well, being close to Nibbana seems to me a very heartening, correct statement from the Buddha as to why this is useful. It's useful to have good friends and be easy to admonish because it helps us not fall away and helps us be close to Nibbana. And there are lots of examples. So after this, you can go search Sutta Central or another resource on easy to admonish, and you're going to come up with a lot of suttas. But I'm just picking a couple here. So another is Angutru Nikaya 3:128. And this is where the Buddha is giving an admonition himself to a bhikkhu. And it happens when he's going out on alms round and he sees this monastic who's straying, following, craving, becoming muddle-minded, and is angry. So, i.e., this monastic is getting caught up in greed, hatred, and delusion. So the Buddha stops and reproaches him somewhat strongly. But the part to key in on is what the sutta says then is, then the monk admonished with the Blessed One's admonishment came to his senses. He came to his senses. For me, that is a powerful statement as to why this is useful. to receive an, well, can you imagine receiving an admonishment directly from the Buddha? And, you know, all of those that we are associating with have some of that within them. So can we tune into our spiritual companions and receive something that will help us to come to our senses? So those are some of the things we might look at as to why is it useful. We can come to our senses. We can be close to Nibbana. We have a much better chance of staying rather than straying from the path. And then the second part is aligning our attention. So the aligning one's attention, I would turn to the sutta that the Buddha taught Rahula, his son. And this is an excerpt on moral introspection. So a little bit of what we started to do, just the general flavor. But then you can apply that general flavor that we did in a meditation to the specifics of what action you intend to take. So here is the sutta excerpt. What do you think, Rahula? What is the purpose of a mirror? For the purpose of reflection, Bhante. So too, Rahula, an action with the body should be done after repeated reflection. An action by speech should be done after repeated reflection, and an action by mind should be done after repeated reflection. Rahula, when you wish to do an action with the body, or with our speech, or with our mind, compress in there, you should reflect upon that same bodily action thus. Would this action that I wish to do with the body lead to my own affliction, or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both? Is it an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences, with painful results? And when you reflect, if you know this action that I wish to do with the body would lead to my own affliction, or the affliction of others, or the affliction of both, it is an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences, with painful results. You definitely should not do such an action with the body, or with speech, or with mind. But when you reflect, if you know this action that I wish to do with the body would not lead to my own affliction, or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both, it is a wholesome bodily action with pleasant consequences, with pleasant results, then you may do such an action with the body, or with speech, or with the mind. And then he goes on, also, Rahula, while you are doing an action with the body, or the speech, or the mind, you should reflect. And again, also, Rahula, after you have done an action with the body, or speech, or mind, you should reflect upon that action. And in that contemplation, you'll have a moral introspection. You'll have your own internal admonishment and feedback. This is skillful. This is something I may do, or this is not skillful. This is something I should abandon. So then there's the aligning. I'm going to tell a little bit of a story. Before I came to monastic life, I was practicing at Common Ground Meditation Center in Minneapolis. And a bhikkhu came through. There were bhikkhus who came through multiple times a year, and eventually a bhikkhuni. And this one was Ajahn Jotipalo. And Ajahn Jotipalo was there, and he was talking about when he had visited another monastery. And when you go to another monastery, you're going to run in similar but not the same patterns of etiquette, deportment, behaviors. So it's not so much an ethical thing, it's just the social norms. And this is true out in the world of work and social engagement as well. There's social norms. And so he came in, and there were a group who came in at the time with that typical looking around, not sure what to do. And at one point, Ajahn Jotipalo said he was sitting on, they have these raised platforms for the monastics to sit on. And he was sitting at the edge of it, and he had his feet hanging down. And another monk came up and said to him, Venerable, we don't sit like that on the platform with our legs hanging down. We sit, cross-legged up on them, or we get off of the platform and stand or go to another seating position. I'm paraphrasing. It's been a long time since I heard the story originally. But Ajahn Jotipalo's response was, he put his hands in Anjali, a respectful position, and he said, "Thank you, Venerable. If you see anything else, please let me know." So he's there, he set his attitude up, because when you put your hands in a respectful position, when you express appreciation, his attitude's already aligned. And then that moves us into the third part of setting up to receive correction. He's made an invitation. Now, thank you, Venerable. If you see me doing anything else, please let me know. Well, Ajahn Jotipalo told the story further. He said word got around. Word got around that this monk is open to feedback. And so he'd turn and, Venerable, we don't wash our bowls that way. Thank you, Venerable. If you see me doing anything else, please let me know. Venerable Bhikkhu, we don't stand in line that way. You should be standing here. Thank you, Venerable. If you see me doing anything else, please let me know. And we'll get to the part about the actual receiving of it, but Ajahn Jotipalo's exemplifying that, the qualities of patience and respectfulness. Thank you, Venerable. If you see me doing anything else, please let me know. Well, the happy ending of this is that within a few days, Ajahn Jotipalo was basically at flow with that community. He knew where to stand, he knew how to wash the bowl, and he would be open easily then for any more ethical feedback that would be for his benefit. He was not looking around anymore to know where he should be or how he should act. And he noticed that the other visitors who came in at that same time were still in that state where I'm a little uncomfortable. I'm not quite sure how to fit in. So this is another benefit of bringing our attitude forward to receiving in a patient and kind way. So there's also in monastic life a formal way of asking for correction, and this is more about our ethics. It happens at least once a year. So at the time of the Buddha, it might happen only in one setting because they were coming together for what's called the Vasa, the Rini retreat. And a group of monastics may live together for 3 months. And the Buddha suggested that at the end of that 3 months, those monastics should come together and they should say to one another, if there is anything you have seen, anything you have heard about, or anything you even suspected that I have done that is out of alignment with our ethics, please let me know. Oh. So this formal requesting of feedback, and there's a ceremony around it, and actually monasteries that practice it in that one time a year setting, it's said that you're not supposed to get up from that conversation until it's been resolved. I've heard that as like marriage advice. Don't go to bed until you've resolved. This is the monastic equivalent of that, is that you don't go apart from each other until you've resolved and you understand what it is that you may have done, or you've cleared up, oh no, that really was a misunderstanding, and the other person is no longer doubting your integrity with the ethics. Now at Aloka Vihara, we live together all the time. A lot of the year we're together. So we have a practice of this being an ongoing and open invitation. Anything that you've seen, anything that you've heard about, or anything that you've suspected, please bring it to my attention so that I can clean up my ethics, so that I can live in alignment. And this is for my benefit on the path. It also is for the benefit of the community as we live together. So that's the formal invitation. So that's the first part of setting up our heart space and also our environment, our relationships with each other to be ready to receive correction. And then the second one is the actual receiving of the correction. And here, again, there are a lot of suttas about how to receive correction. But they have this phrase I want to focus in on. And that phrase is, let's see here. The phrase is, it appears a lot and it's describing one who is easy to admonish or correct. And it is, this is the quality. They are patient and they take instruction respectfully. So patient and respectful. They take that admonishment respectfully. And when we look at that quality of patience, this can simply be the spaciousness of being quiet and receiving. So allowing the person to give us the feedback with as much softness as we can, not guarded, a vulnerability and a quietude. This is something we have to cultivate, because that get an admonishment, and this is one I've done. No, that's not true. I'm not like that. Not soft, not patient, not spacious. Or I get the correction and it's, oh, I'm so bad. I'm so bad. And going into, kind of a self-chastisement on top of it, which pulls me out of relationship with the person who is kindly offering me this admonishment. Now, at the beginning, I said so many Dhamma talks and explorations are around right speech and the giving of correction. Well, remember, this person who is giving you this correction is trying to work in that complicated space, the complicated space of really showing up with right speech and giving a wise correction. So being patient with the person who may not be giving the correction in such a way that would be ideal for my nervous system to respond in a soft way, in a receptive way. It may feel harsh to me, but giving them the patient space for them to be able to give the admonishment is a gift for my practice, so that I can actually work through the pieces. And then we've talked a little bit about that respectfulness. You may not do this in your workplace, putting your hands in a prayer Anjali position, but you can put your heart in that position, to respect. We're doing this for our well-being. So I'm going to open it up for more conversation, but I want to get to the third one so we can include it too. And that is the responding to the correction. And this one I feel has 4 parts. First is noticing the internal response. What's happening in the body? What's happening in my heart when I receive this correction? And I'm that no, or that shame, or it could be disassociation. It could be so many things. A defensiveness. And it can also be oh, wow, someone finally sees that and is calling it out, and maybe they're going to help me with this. It could be, wow, this is a mentor who's really calling something to my attention. Now, all of these are possible and present, but just to notice, how is it landing? What is my internal response? And this is partly what the Buddha is telling Rahula. How is it landing while you're doing an action? Well, the action that we're doing is receiving feedback. So how is it landing? And then before you respond, see if you can choose your response. So rather than that 2-part, you've received some sort of feedback, criticism, correction, and you react. See if you can have that pause in between, and instead you choose your response. and you choose a response that has that wisdom of the path in it. And then you make the actual outward response. We can get more into what that might look like in the discussion. And then the last one is check the impact. Check the impact of your response. And this may be after time, after it's unrolled a little bit. It may be in that moment, but a lot of times it takes time to respond to a correction. And then you can go back and say, I've been working on that thing you pointed out to me. I'd like you to give me some further feedback. Do you see a change? Is it changing our relationship? Does my current behavior feel better? And if you can open yourself up for that ongoing conversation, then you're creating a resonance with the path and with your companion on the path. And this is an act of kindness for them when you're using right speech in this response. So I'll go through the whole thing, and then I believe we've got about 20 minutes. The overall 3 parts. We're going to set up to receive correction. We're going to receive that correction, and then we're going to respond to the correction. And in the setting up to receive it, we've got 3 parts. We trust that it's useful, it's valuable for the path. We align our heart, our environment, our relationships with being able to receive it. And then we actually invite that feedback, that criticism, that correction. And then the second one, the receiving, has 2 qualities that we bring forth. One is patience, and the other is respectfulness. And then that third one, the responding, has potentially 4 parts. And this is an exploration, so maybe you add a part, or we'll see. The first is check your internal response. The second is, as much as possible, choose how you're going to respond. The third is to actually make the response. And then the fourth is to circle back and assess the impact of your corrections that you've made based on this feedback. So I'd like to leave that container as our space for conversation and see what wisdom emerges, what questions, what comments, what curiosities emerge as we explore together.
So thank you very much, Ayya, for this. We've never had a talk on this, and it's so important. I can remember in my youth, early university days, getting some pretty blunt feedback from friends. And at the moment, it hurt like crazy, but it was about some annoying personality characteristics that I was blind to. And I don't think I gave an immediate response, but I changed my behavior, and I'm sure it helped me be more socially acceptable. So I just know the value of it. Yeah. So thank you for bringing this topic up.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And that's a concrete, real-world expression of the benefits. Anyone can, I think people are able to unmute themselves. Is that true?
Hopefully. If you can't, wave at me and I'll unmute you. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of an echo happening here. Yeah.
Yes.
Victor.
No, John. Oh. Is Victor here?
You just testing it, or do you have something to pull? Just testing. All right.
I have a question then. I have no one.
Please.
So I guess my thinking goes right away to am I to be open to receive admonishment from people that I know to be wise, or should I just open myself in general? And I guess I'm thinking of layers of humility, because if I'm just open to the world, then it's super humble. but then I'm also going to be struggling to find that ability to trust that it's going to be useful or whatever, right? So let's talk about that.
You're bringing up a very beautiful point, and you bring in a very beautiful word, that word of humility. This is another quality that really helps us in admonishment. And I'm talking about the wholesome humility of not knowing, of being open to, of understanding that we are a conditioned being and this feedback may be beneficial. So, yes, we've focused on knowing these are wise people, or people at least on a wise path. You know, even people on a wise path have stuff. So whether it's our companion on this wise path, or it's someone on a very worldly path. I have a teacher who said they walked into the wrong 12-step meeting, and yet they heard something from someone who would be considered, you know, very much a social outcast and mentally divergent in considered illness, and yet the words that they spoke were exactly what that teacher needed to hear at that moment. So I say, yes, as much as we can, be open and then be discerning. So a lot of times when we're receiving, we'll call it criticism, we're receiving a critical remark, particularly out in the world, it can be just their stuff. It can be complete, feedback is spot on, and then at the other end of the spectrum, it is off base, you know, to use some cliches. And there's the range in between. So unless it's way over in the off base, it's likely somewhere in the gradation of there might be a nugget in there that I can take in. Because you have to understand, this is the impact you had on that person, your whatever the situation is. They also have a whole bunch of conditioning. But if you can tease out the part, oh, that part came from me, then you can take that as your feedback. And you can throw away the part that's just their baggage. It's a tricky process. You don't necessarily always want to devote your time to that. You can be discerning about that too. So it's not that you just let people, you know, poke at you. But when you're capacitated to receive that poke, use it for your own benefit. You know, use your discernment skills. Does that help? How does that land?
Yeah, that's beautiful. So it brings to mind another 12-step trope of take what you like and leave the rest.
Exactly. Beautiful. Others? It's Leslie.
I'm going through a phase of practice where I am being more and more careful about who I associate with, because I know my own foibles, and certain kinds of people amplify those and other people quiet them.
Yeah.
So I'm not making others responsible for my foibles, but I'm aware that for me to grow and heal, I don't need extra stimulation for those difficulties. I need to actually quiet them down and find a safe community where those particular people don't trigger me. It's not that I'm blaming the people I'm avoiding, it's that I'm recognizing it's not healthy for me. Any comments?
Yes, the Buddha. Oh, yeah, that also really important what you're bringing up, who we associate with. So the Buddha suggests in many places, but probably the most well known is the Mangala Sutta, the highest blessing sutta. And it starts out with, you know, don't associate with fools, associate with the wise. And it even, if you look at the Pali underneath it, it's really don't take leadership from, you know, direction setting from. someone who is not wise. Take your feedback from those who are wise. And the sutta also really is talking about who you hang out with, who you associate with, because we are conditioned beings. So whatever conditioning we put ourselves in, it's going to have, an impact on how I process and how I present. So very, very important who we're hanging out with. Would anyone else like to comment on that or on what's been asked before, or bring in something new? Susan, you're not muted. Is that because you've got something to share?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right. Others?
I just have a comment. I'm sorry, my internet is not working, so I have to have my video off.
Kelly, that's fine. Please,
Okay.
please share.
I'm enjoying hanging around with kids lately. And so I'm creating boundaries of just unwise and wise adults. And I'm finding just right now in my path, in physical form, there aren't many wise adults. I've got one good one here, but the children, they're very inspiring. They want to talk about solutions, and I don't know, I'm just finding I'm hanging out with my friends' kids a lot more, and it's pretty beautiful.
Yeah. Kelly, that's great. He brings up a good point. Now, where we're looking for it sometimes is in the children. Children are telling you like it is. And they're asking amazing questions a lot of times. So I also agree with Kelly. That's a great place to look for feedback on how are things, because it's unfiltered and it's real.
And they seem to still have the ability to listen and stay present. And it's something that you just don't find that often in society, right? And so it's, yeah, I'm also pregnant, so that might be why I'm gravitating towards that as well. But either way, it's beautiful.
Wonderful, wonderful. So yes, and you've got your own body to be listening to right now with a lot of feedback going on, I'm sure. Yeah. Anyone been there? Or Sarah, what do you want to bring in?
You mentioned how important it is to hang out with, but I have to hang out with myself all the time. And I find that my self-admonishment is really harsh.
Oh,
oh,
thank you. Where do we start? Where do we start? We start right in our heart. And yes, that critical mind. Gosh, there were times that I woke up and the first thoughts in my head were cruel, self-cruel. And then throughout the day, my response to myself was stupid, 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 stupid. And it's something that, as I came to the Buddhist path, is like, wow, I'm not hanging out with a very good friend, am I? And I really started doing metta practice in a way that would change how I spoke to myself. And over time, that stupid, I had a teacher who would call himself honey. He'd say, oh, honey, oh, honey. It's like this, oh, honey. And so I picked a word that started with S, from stupid to sweetheart. Oh, sweetheart. Oh, sweetheart. So as soon as I'd start with that punitive comment, I'd be, oh, sweetheart. Yeah, it's like this right now. It's like this. And on the video, I don't know if you can see that I would use a finger to point at myself with the first one. And with the second, I just put my hand against my cheek and, oh, sweetheart. And it did over time. I was in therapy at the time, and the therapist was trying to get me to stop saying I hate myself. And I said, I can't do that because it wouldn't be in my integrity to say I love myself, because I don't. Because that's how I'd been conditioning myself for so many years. But over time, it became easy. It became really easy to say, at first it was, I care about this life. I care about this life. And over time, it became, I love myself, which is why I took on robes. There are so many other reasons as well, but that sense of, gosh, I really do care about the results of this karma, and I want to live in a wiser way. So it can be transformed, and you got to just keep being attentive. And that the words, the gently curious about where this is coming from, and then quietly, calmly attentive to be able to start to change it. So your attention has the quality of kindness, even to the unkindness that you're putting onto yourself. I'd like to hear your response if you have any, and maybe to stay on this particular topic, if anyone else has feedback on that.
That's very helpful. I'm new at this, and so making friends with myself is probably a good start.
Yeah.
I used the same technique for about 3 years, I think, and now it's just automatic. But an example for my meditation practice, at first I used to focus on every time my mind would wander, and then I chastise myself. And then when I started this technique, instead of focusing on the fact that I had wandered, I mean, you wander until you wake up. So I'd focus on the fact that I had woken up. And I think I used the same words, sweetheart. Oh, good going, sweetheart. You woke up. You figured it out. And I would emphasize the fact that I was awake again instead of being lost in whatever. And anyway, after about 3 years, it just became an automatic thing. I didn't have to sort of intentionally do it.
Yeah. One more comment on this theme from anyone? Victor?
What you said made me think of Maxim. As a man thinks, so he is.
Yes. Yes. Which is why that how the mind and the heart are shaped, focusing our kindness there will bring out that kindness when we're receiving feedback from external, and while we're receiving feedback from the internal. Okay, I do have one kind of chanter reading that I could do at the end here. Maybe that's a good wrap up for us today.
Would you like
Do you? Yeah. Let's screen share it, and I'll just chant the middle part of it. But if anybody wants a copy of it, we could probably get you a copy of it. And this is from Majjhima Nikaya number 15. And the sutta is on the qualities that make one easy to admonish. So there's an important sutta on this. So if you want more, you could start there, and then also you could go search in the suttas for the phrase "easy to admonish." Okay. All right. So I'll just chant the middle part about the qualities. I invite other monastics to admonish me. I am easy to correct. I have qualities that make me easy to correct. I am patient and take instruction respectfully, so my spiritual companions think it's worth advising and instructing me. Thus I gain their trust. I cultivate the qualities that make me easy to admonish. I do not have wicked desires, nor fall under the sway of wicked desires. I do not glorify myself and put others down. I am not angry, overcome by anger. hostile due to anger, stubborn due to anger. I am not angry and blurt out words bordering on anger. When accused, I do not object to the accuser. I do not rebuke the accuser. I do not retort to the accuser. I do not dodge the issue, nor distract the discussion with irrelevant points, nor display irritation, hate, and bitterness. When accused, I accept the consequences of my deeds. I am not offensive and contemptuous. I am not envious and stingy. I am not devious and deceitful. I am not obstinate and vain. I am not attached to my own views, holding them tight and refusing to let go. These are the qualities that make me easy to admonish. So with those beautiful qualities in mind, may we take those out into the world and into our relationship with ourselves. Thank you for this time together.
Thank you, Ayya. That's wonderful.
Well, I think that's it for this year, and the sharings from Ayya and myself. It's been a nourishing to have this time with you, and I hope your practices all continue in very beneficial ways for yourself and children to be, and for the world.
Thanks so much.